n8n has rapidly emerged as the leading no-code or low-code automation platform on the market today. It allows people, even those with no technical background, to build highly advanced AI agents and automations which they can then sell or use in their own operations to unlock massive business value. So to stop you from falling down a YouTube rabbit hole, I've created this comprehensive n8n Masterclass series which is designed to teach you the core principles which you need in order to be able to create and implement these solutions for yourself. There's a popular misconception that you need to know everything about n8n and AI before you can start using it to make any money, and that is just simply not true. What I've found in my journey is that you do not actually start learning anything until you're working on real client projects, and I fell into the same trap of spending months inside n8n learning to build agents and automations which have no real world value. You start learning when you're dealing with real clients, real data, and that is something that no amount of YouTube content can prepare you for. So we'll be starting from the ground up, and I'm going to be making the assumption that you have zero technical or programming background. The purpose of this series is to take you from a complete beginner who's never stepped inside n8n to somebody who's competent and has the required skill set to build these things for yourself and either start using them to make money or implementing these solutions into your own business so you can start leveraging AI. So the first thing that we're going to do is sign up. However, before we do that, we need to discuss two things. The first is pricing and the second is hosting. So in this space, you're going to commonly hear about three different types of hosting being mentioned. The first is cloud hosting, and that is when your n8n instance lives on n8n server. And the benefit of this is that it's easy to set it up. You just put in your email address and you're good to go. The downside is that it's costly and it's a little bit restrictive in terms of what you get for your money. So if we look at the pricing here and we change this to monthly, I'm in the UK, so this is in pounds. For 2,500 workflow executions and 5 concurrent executions, that's going to cost you £24 a month, and that is before tax. It's nearly £30 a month once the tax is added on. And for the Pro plan, it's £60 a month, and that gives us 10,000 workflow executions and 20 concurrent executions. Second type of hosting is self-hosting, and that is when your n8n instance lives on a third-party provider like Hostinger servers. Now, the benefits of this is it's much cheaper, you have more flexibility, and you also get access to the community nodes. Now, we're going to talk about these community nodes in more detail in a later lesson, but for now, just know that there are nodes which have been built by developers which haven't been officially approved by n8n, and to get access to those, you will need to be on either a self-hosted or a local hosted n8n version. Now, the downsides of being self-hosted are it's a little bit more technical for setting it up. However, Hostinger do a really good job of making this as simple as possible, and it can be done in as little as 5 minutes. I have another video guiding you through how you can do this, so be sure to check that out. The other downside of being self-hosted is that you are responsible for updating your n8n instance. It will not update itself. You need to go into your VPS. Every once a week is fine. That's what I do personally, and update it yourself. Again, this takes about 2 minutes. It's just not as easy and convenient as using the cloud-hosted version where you log in and you're always on the latest version. The final type of hosting is local hosting, and that is when you are the server. Whether that's your computer or a server that you own, you're running your own n8n instance on your own server. So the main benefit of this is data control. You're controlling the data that's flowing in and out of there, and this is especially important if you're dealing with sensitive data, then this is definitely the way to go. The downside is this is just a little bit more technical again for setting up. So for beginners, I would definitely recommend steering clear of local hosting and going with either the cloud version or self-hosted. For this series, we're going to be using the cloud version, and they also give you a 14-day trial when you sign up. So to do that, just come up to Get Started in the top right and fill in your details and log in. Once that fires up, you're now inside of your n8n instance, and we're just going to have a quick tour so you know how to navigate this. So on the left-hand side here, you have Overview, Personal, and Chat. Now, if you go to Personal, you're going to see these 4 tabs. You've got Workflows, Credentials, Executions, and Data Tables. Now, we're going to cover some of this in more detail later. For now, just know that this is where all of your workflows that you create will be listed out. And your credentials, this is where all of your accounts, so if you link your n8n instance to your Gmail account, this is where you're going to see that credential stored. So that covers that. Down here we have Admin Panel. This is where you're going to be able to see which version of n8n you're running. You're also going to have the ability to upgrade your plan and other things here. And if you go to Settings, it will just show you things in a little bit more detail. Next we have Templates. So if you click into this and go to see more templates, there you go. There are 5,200 templates, which you can scroll through if that is what you want to spend your time doing. You can click into these Some of them are free, some of them are paid. If you want to use it, you would just click on this button here. That'll download it and you can import it to a new canvas. So down here, it'll usually describe what it does, prerequisites, and setting up instructions as well. So let's actually build something, because that's what everybody is here for. So you can hit start from scratch or create workflow, and that is going to take you to the canvas. Now, this is where you actually build things. So this is important. We'll just have a quick run through of the options here. So up in the top, we can rename our workflow whatever we like. I'm just going to call this my first agent. We then have editor, executions, and evaluations. So editor is where you'll actually edit your workflow. Executions, every time you run a workflow or an agent, that is called an execution, and it will log it here. So anytime things go wrong, you're going to be in here quite a lot, and we're going to go through that in more detail as we start to build out on this. So evaluations, don't worry about that too much for now. Up here we have publish. Now this is like turning your workflow on and off. Save, and we have a little clock. This restores your workflow to a previous version. So say everything's working nicely, you then make some changes and something goes wrong. That will happen, trust me. You can then restore to a previous version using the clock. This little three dots here, that is going to drop down a menu. The main things you need to worry about here are download, import from file, and settings. So download is going to download your entire workflow as a JSON file. I'll explain to you why that is important soon. Import from file, that is how you're going to import other people's templates. If you want to use somebody else's template, then this is important. And settings, you don't need to worry about too much here for now. When you're a little bit more advanced, you will probably set up an on-error workflow, and this is where you would go to do that. You would just select it from here. So that covers everything there. This is the most important button on the canvas. This is the node panel button. So if you hit the plus button here, that's going to open up the node panel, which is where you will add all of your different nodes. You can also open that up by hitting tab on your keyboard as a shortcut. Next we have the command bar, don't worry about that. Sticky notes, these are fun, especially when you get more advanced. You can style your workflow, you can change the colors, and you can also style these with markdown format text as well. Underneath there we have the focus panel. We're going to ignore that, and we also have n8n's AI. This can build automations for you, but I would recommend you steer clear of that for now, as if it builds something, it's likely not to be very good. It's not as good as Claude Code, and if it isn't working right, you don't have the skills yet to be able to know why it's not working. So I would recommend that you don't play around with this until you're a little bit more advanced. And finally, these four buttons in the bottom left. This one here, if you get lost on your canvas somewhere and you need to snap back to the middle of your workflow, you can hit that button and that will take you back to the center. You then have zoom in and zoom out buttons here. And finally, you have a tidy workflow button. If your workflow looks like spaghetti junction, which it probably will at first, and that's absolutely fine, this button will tidy things up and make it look a little bit more visually appeasing. So the first thing that we're going to build is going to be our own little AI agent. Now, the reason we're starting with an AI agent is because it does a great job of teaching the foundational things like triggers, inputs, outputs, large language models, prompts, all these things which you're going to need to internalize so you can start to build on your knowledge. So what we're going to do is create essentially our own little version of ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. So every single workflow which you create, whether that be an agent or an automation, needs to start with a trigger. Now, a trigger is what kicks the workflow into action. So what we need to do is add a first step. Now, if we do that, that's going to open up the node panel. And if I type in trigger, you're going to see a list of all the different types of triggers which we can add. Now, what we're going to be using is a chat trigger. So if I click on this here, what I can then do is you're going to see down here in the bottom left, we've now got a chat window. So I can say hello, and that is going to execute. We see it's gone green, which is a good sign, but nothing's going to happen because it isn't connected to anything yet. So that is our chat trigger. And as I said, all workflows must have a trigger. If there's no trigger, then nothing can kick the workflow into action. So the next thing that we're going to do is add an AI agent. So if I hit this plus button here, that's how we add the next step. And I type in AI agent into the node panel, add this guy here. Now this is going to pop up with our AI agents settings effectively. So what you see here is source for prompt. This is the user message. The user is me in this case, so, or you. So the source for the prompt is the connected chat trigger node. Now that's correct. We want this input into this agent to be what our message in our chat window said. So you can see this here, prompt is the user's message. So this is what's being sent to the AI agent, right? So in the future lessons, we're going to really start to manipulate this data in here. I'm going to show you how we can start to mess around with this to make it a little bit more customized to what we actually want it to do. But for now, this is perfect. Chat input. Now, here you see schema, table, and JSON. So these are just different formats, right? Don't worry about this too much for now. These are just different formats or different ways which you can see the same information, right? So we've got schema, table, and JSON. Now, what this prompt user message says is JSON.chat input. Now, that is a variable. So variables stand for something. Now, in this case, what that variable stands for, JSON.chat input. You can see here, chat input is hello. Well, that's what I said, wasn't it? That's what I said in the chat window was hello. So in this case, the JSON.chat input is standing for what we said in our chat, which was hello. So if I click here, right, you can see here, result, hello. So we're going to dive deeper into that. Don't worry if you're confused. We will go into this in much more detail as we move through the course. So for now, this is great. So we come out of there and you're going to see three things down below our little agent guy here. You're going to see chat model. Now, a chat model is our large language model. So if we hit the plus button here, we have Anthropic, which is Claude. We have Gemini, DeepSeek, OpenAI. All of the main LLMs are listed here. So this is the brain of our AI agent, right? The large language model is how our AI agent understands what we're saying. It's how it generates its responses. So this is extremely important. Next, we have memory. Now, this is how our AI agent is able to remember what we've said to it in the past. If I tell it that today is my birthday and we don't have memory connected, it's going to say happy birthday. If I then ask it when is my birthday, it's going to go, I don't have that information. If we add memory and repeat that process, it's going to remember that I said today is my birthday. So when I ask again when my birthday is, it's going to know that it's today. So finally, we have tools. Now, there are literally thousands and thousands of tools which you can add to your AI agent. So we're going to be covering some of the basic tools and we're going to cover some of the Google Workspace ones because those are the ones which are kind of difficult to set up in terms of your API keys and authentication. So we are going to cover those pretty soon. And then here, this would be our output or our next step. So if we wanted to build anything downstream of our AI agent, we would add those nodes here on the backside. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a chat model. So if we hit this plus button here and I scroll down, we're going to go for an OpenAI chat model, which is ChatGPT. As you can see here, it's asking us to select a credential. Now, what is this? This is how we connect our n8n instance to third-party apps. So we need to connect this to OpenAI in order to use one of OpenAI's models. So what we can do is hit create new credential. And you're going to see these fields here. Now, don't worry too much about this, right? What is the most important thing on this page is this here. See this open docs? If there's anything that you're not sure about, you can always come to the documentation and it does a great job of explaining what you need to do. So if I hit open docs here, n8n's documentation is absolutely brilliant and it has step-by-step instructions on how you need to do these things. So let's see here, API keys. What is an API key? Well, an API key is a password. It's a password that tells the third-party application that we're trying to connect to who we are we authorized to make requests, do we have funds to pay for those requests? So that is an API key. So let's just follow the documentation steps because this is exactly what you need to get into the habit of doing. Anytime you're not sure about something, the answer is usually in the documentation. So let's follow the steps. So it says here to generate your API key, log into your OpenAI account or create an account. So if you don't have one, you need to create an OpenAI account. If you do have one, log in. Step 2, open your API keys page. Now it's got a link to the API keys here. So let's follow that. And this is going to take us to our OpenAI platform API keys page. So what I can do here is up in the top right, create a new secret key, give it a name. I'm going to call this one YT demo. project, default, permissions, all fine. Create secret key, right? So that's going to give us our key. I'm going to copy this key, right? Now, I don't suggest that you close this down. Leave this open for now in case anything goes wrong, because what happens is some of the different applications which you use and connect to will only let you see your API key once. So if you copy this and hit done and something isn't right, you then can't see your API key again, right? Now, don't worry, I'm going to delete this API key after the video so nobody's racking up bills on my account. So we've copied that, and let's go back to our documentation. What's it saying we should do next? Create your new secret key. We've done that, that's fine. Optionally naming the key. Again, I suggest you do name your keys so you know why you've created them. It's easier to track down if something's going wrong, or if you're getting bills from somewhere that you're not sure where that's coming from, then naming your keys can usually help you get to the bottom of that. Step 4, copy your key and add it as the API key in n8n. So let's go back to n8n. See here, API key. So let's paste in our API key. Now you can't see it. If you do need to see it, you can see where this says fixed and it says expression. If you go to expression, that's going to show you the key, right? You can see it's a big long string of numbers and text. So hide it again by hitting fixed. Again, I'm going to delete that after the video, so don't worry about that. I'm now going to hit save, and what we should see is connection tested successfully. That means everything's good to go. n8n is confirmed that the connection is working. So let's go back. So we're back at our canvas here, and you can see we now have this OpenAI chat model node has appeared. So if we click in here, you can see OpenAI account, so we're now connected, which is great. Model from list, and it says GPT 4.1 mini. So if we click on this drop down, we're going to see all the different OpenAI models which we can choose from. And there's lots of them, right? So you can see here the newest models, 5.2, 5.2 Pro. What else have we got here? We've got 5 Codex, 4.0 Mini. There's lots of models to choose from. So how do you know which model to use? Well, the answer is you don't. Until you start to work with these things and have a little bit more experience, you don't really know what it is that you need to do. All I would say is, when you're a beginner, you're probably not doing advanced enough searches or reasoning or anything like that to justify using a more powerful model. I would suggest sticking with 4.1 mini. Why? Well, more powerful models cost more money. So unless you need that extra power, you don't want to be paying for it, right? For me, I always stick with 4.1 mini for all of my agents and automations. Unless I'm doing something that's super complex, then I might use something like 5.2 or Gemini 3 Pro. But for most cases, leave this at 4.1 mini. It's fast, it's cheap, it's reliable, and it's good enough for pretty much every use case. So that is your models. If we come back out here, we can now test out our chat, right? So if I drag this chat up again now, and I say, hello, it's hitting our agent, it's hitting the chat model, hits our agent, you see the response here? Hello, how can I assist you today? So that's now working, right? We're now having a conversation with ChatGPT effectively inside n8n through our AI agent. So let's just quickly cover the logs, right? You see this logs here? So this is a log of everything that's happened in that execution. And you can also see executions tab. You can see this execution. You can see what happened in the logs. But what happened here, chat message, that was our message, right? It's hit our AI agent. You can see it's gone to OpenAI chat model. It's got our input was human, hello. Output, hello, how can I assist you today? So the logs are important. Again, when you start building things and things don't quite go as planned, you can have a look in the logs and see what went wrong, or if something didn't quite behave the way you expected it to, you can go in and check that inside of the logs. We'll just quickly go back to executions, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of time in here as you start to get more advanced in your journey. And this is a log of all of the different times that your workflow is run. So this is important because when things go wrong, you can come in here and you can see this copy to editor button up in the top right. Well, this allows us to copy that live execution back into the editor so we can actually see the automation or agent run in real time and see where the data went, what went wrong, what the error was, which is really important for debugging. So now we're going to add some memory. Now we're going to go back to the scenario I mentioned earlier on about my birthday. So if I say in this box here, today is my birthday, if I can spell, and I hit that enter, you see, happy birthday, I hope you have an amazing day, amazing, right? So I'm now going to say, when is my birthday? You're going to see it's going to say, I don't have access to your personal information, so I don't know when your birthday. Now I've just told it when my birthday was, so it should know that, right? Now the reason it doesn't know that is because we haven't added memory. So let's go into memory here, hit add, and we're going to hit simple memory. Now there are more advanced memory options. You can use full-on databases like Postgres as memory, but for us, simple memory is great. Again, we have another one of these funny looking setups here. So you can see session key from previous node, JSON.SessionID. Again, this is what we call a variable, right? Now, what does this mean? So this session ID is our current session that we're having with our agent, right? So this is just telling n8n, telling the agent, which session is it that it needs to remember the messages from. So this session ID will change every time that we come in and talk to our agent, right? So this, we can't hard code a value in here because it's going to change every time that we come in here and talk to it. So that's what this JSON.SessionID is. You can see underneath here, this is what the session ID is. And again, if we hit this button here, you can see the result. It's this code. Where's it getting that code from? Let's get it from here. Session ID is this here. And we can actually pull these across. Now, this is fixed because it says session ID and we're using it from the connected chat trigger node. But if we put define below, right, we could now pull anything in here. We could pull action in here. We could pull chat input in here. Now, that's not going to work. We can do it and it's going to go green, right? But it's not going to make sense in terms of the logic of what's happening. So we're just going to take that out. We're going to go back to there and that's going to put it back to JSON.SessionID. So context window length. This is the amount of past messages which our agent is going to remember. So we can change this, right, to 10, 15, 20. Doesn't really matter. We're going to leave it at 5 for now. We'll come out of there. We've now added our memory. So let's say today's my birthday. Happy birthday. I hope you have an amazing day, right? So now I'm going to say, when is my birthday again? Let's see what he says this time. You mentioned that today is your birthday. So there we go. It's now remembering what we've said previously, which is critical, right? An AI agent which can't remember anything is useless. The next thing we need to cover is extremely important, and that is system messages. So what is a system message? Well, it's effectively an internal set of instructions that your AI agent is going to use and follow every time you give it a task, right? So we go into our AI agent here and then go to options, add an option, and you're going to see system message. So it says here, you are a helpful assistant. A really generalist system message that is, right? But what starts to happen is when we start to add different tools or give it different tasks, then it needs to know how we want it to actually approach those things, what order we want it to approach those things. How is it going to know which tool to call? Well, we can explicitly state all of those things inside the system prompt. So we can get as detailed as we like with the system prompt. And the more detailed your system prompt is, the better your AI agent is going to perform. This is going to be the difference, ultimately, between an AI agent which is effective and an AI agent which is useless, okay? So let's come up with an example here. I want to say here, we'll give it some instructions. I want you to convert my messages into Spanish. Okay? So if we close this down, And I come back to our chat here now. And I say, hello, how are you? Let's see what it comes back with. Hola, ¿cómo estás? So hopefully you can start to see how we can manipulate and control the way that our AI agent goes about our tasks. Now that's going to be where we close off lesson 1. So we've covered a ton today, and I think it's important that you start to internalize this information, watch it again if you need to, because this is the foundations, right? Everything we learn in the following lessons is going to be building upon what we've learned today. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in part 2, which I'll be releasing tomorrow.